we're going to talk about this. We need to talk about this story for our politics Andes, the people here for politics. Lincoln Project is grifter groomers. So if you have been a long time fan and watcher of the Central Committee, you know that I have been seriously opposed to the dumb fuck Lincoln Project for months and months and months. Basically since the beginning. I called them out as basically being a way for liberals to get money taken from them and poured into former Republican political consultants who were paying themselves exorbitant rates and enriching themselves while their ads did nothing. It was liberal catnip. And then my arguments about how the Lincoln Project was totally useless were validated. They were validated even more when a study came out about the Lincoln Project. The hottest campaign ads on Twitter didn't really work. Study. Going viral was nice, but it didn't appear to actually move persuadable voters in swing states. The PAC, Priorities USA, spent a good chunk of the cycle testing the effectiveness of ads, some 500 in all, and along the way they decided to conduct an experiment that could potentially save them tons of money. They took 5 ads produced by fellow occupant in the Super PAC domain, the Lincoln Project, and attempted to measure their persuasiveness among persuadable swing state voters, i.e. the ability of an ad to move Trump voters toward Joe Biden. A control group saw no ad at all. 5 different treatment groups, each made of 683 respondents, saw one of the 5 ads. Afterwards, they were asked the same post-treatment questions, measuring the likelihood they would vote and who they would vote for. It was instead to see if Twitter virality could be used as a substitute for actual ad testing, which took funds and time. If it turned out that what the Lincoln Project was doing was proving persuasive, the thinking went, then Priorities USA could use Twitter as a quasi-barometer for seeing how strong their own ads were. But that didn't turn out to be the case. According to Nick Amid, Priorities Analytics Director, the correlation of Twitter metrics, likes and retweets, and persuasion was negative 0.30, meaning the better the ad did on Twitter, the less it persuaded battleground state voters. The most viral of the Lincoln Project ads, a spot called Bounty, which was retweeted 116,000 times and liked more than 210,000 times, turned out to be the least persuasive of those priorities tested. Tell me if this ad works. Are you ready?
In the last year, flag-draped coffins have returned from Afghanistan.
That's praxis.
Now we know Vladimir Putin pays a bounty for the murder of American soldiers. Donald Trump knows too, and does nothing. Putin pays the Taliban cash to slaughter our men and women in uniform. And Trump is silent, weak, controlled. Instead of condemnation, he insists Russia be treated as our equal. Instead of retaliation, he invites Putin to America. When Trump tells you he stands by the troops, he's right. Just not our troops.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Now, if you're a leftist, when we saw this ad, because we watched it on stream, we laughed and said, this will never work. I made a hard prediction that no one cares and that this will never work. And what do you know? It didn't work. Voters don't care about foreign policy bullshit Russiagate. They want to hear about how you're going to make their lives better. So the Lincoln Project got millions of dollars. AOC, the Lincoln Project, as being in scam territory after it raised $67 million to try to persuade never Trump Republicans to vote for Biden. So there's a few people in politics that I think you should pay attention to that are pretty smart, and you should listen to them when they make pronouncements about what's good strategy politically. You know, when they say, hey, maybe we shouldn't try to force this worthless vote for no fucking reason in the middle of other debates. AOC had harsh words for the Lincoln Project on Friday, accused the group of being in scam territory. In a Twitter thread, AOC argued that the Lincoln Project diverted resources from organizers and groups who were more effective in driving votes in for Biden. It's not too late for them to do the right thing. Lincoln Project should take the L and publicly pledge to give a lot of their fundraising to the people who actually made a difference, AOC said. The Lincoln Project, which was started in listen to this shit. Listen to this shit. Listen to this shit and look at how dumb libs are. I'm going to read something and try not to lose your fucking mind, because I'm trying right now and I have my eyes closed because looking at the words is causing me to lose my mind. Started in late 2009 by high-profile former GOP operatives, including Rick Wilson, John McCain advisor, Kellyanne Conway's husband. They're missing one big co-founder because he's not as big of a name. His name is John Weaver. John Weaver, who was another big John McCain advisor. I think John Weaver's an American political consultant, best known for his work on the John McCain presidential campaign of 2018. In between, he worked for a time for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. He was also the chief strategist for the 2016 presidential campaign of John Kasich. So where did the Lincoln Project... So we know the Lincoln Project was a scam. Reed Galen, a top official with the Lincoln Project, didn't dispute the conclusions. In fact, he said they made sense. Surveying the wreckage of the election site, Amit extended the lesson even further. Sometimes he argued political entities didn't just need to guard against the impulse to get Twitter attention. They needed to produce content that was reliable for the majority of the population, which did not reside on the medium.
It's like watching a slow-motion car wreck. How did we get here? Well, Donald Trump ignored experts, downplayed the crisis, and now coronavirus and our economy are spiraling out of control. Joe Biden will listen to science, confront the virus, and rebuild our economy. His plans create good jobs, improve access to affordable health care, expand Medicare, and student debt relief. It's time for Joe Biden. Priorities USA Action is responsible for the...
That was their most persuasive ad. Noticed that it talked about student debt relief and Medicare. Man, I wonder if student debt cancellation and Medicare for all would have been more persuasive than expanding it and relief. I wonder.
It's time for Joe Biden.
So anyway, the Lincoln Project, what did they do with all that money, that $67 million? What did the Lincoln Project do with that $67 million? The Lincoln Project was a giant grift. In all, while the Lincoln Project's YouTube videos lampooning Trump received millions of views and endless promotion on MSNBC, the ads proved ineffective in the group's stated goal. Trump actually increased his share of Republicans in 2020. The Lincoln Project was supposed to persuade moderate Republicans to vote for Biden. And Trump got more of the Republican vote than he did in 2016. Trump did better with Republicans. $67 million, chat. $67 million. And Trump did better with Republicans. Better with Republicans. In all, Trump had support from 91% of Republican voters who lean Republican. Although Biden outperformed 2016 nominee Hillary Clinton in some suburban areas, Trump won a higher percentage of white women in 2020. While the news media was manufacturing false stories about the Lincoln Project moving GOP voters, Trump was consolidating his base and keeping the race close amid a deadly pandemic by focusing on the economy, as his opponents personally insulted him and did not aggressively promote an economic message. Jacobin, are you being class reductionist right now? I'm sorry. I've been accused of being class reductionist for telling people they should focus on the economy and class-based issues. The Cook Political Report's Dave Wasserman noted last month that direct messaging against Trump is ineffective in swing states. Dem messages that usually move vote talking about education and majoritarian economic policies. Wow. The Lincoln Project's failure to move targeted demographics was on a display in key battleground states. In Iowa, for example, the group made headlines with a series of ads aimed at convincing women to vote against Trump. On election night, exit polls showed Trump won a slightly larger share of female Iowa voters in 2020 than he did in 2016. MSNBC tells the Lincoln Project to take a well-deserved victory lap. So all the evidence is the Lincoln Project failed. It was a dead weight on Democratic victories. It was a diversion. It was a parasite. It distracted from the stuff that is actually working. It hurt Democrats, in essence. But on MSNBC, take a victory lap. Earlier this year, the group was lampooned by Stephen Colbert's cartoon show for spending so much money on overhead. By the end of September, the group had funneled $4.5 million through Summit Strategic Communications, run by the group's co-founder, Reed Galen. The group also reported paying $3.9 million to Tusk Digital, led by another Lincoln Project co-founder, Ron Steslow. That's what they did. They took all that money and they stuffed it in their own pockets. Despite all the data about the Lincoln Project's failure, MSNBC host Brian Williams asserted Wednesday that the group helped swing the presidential race to Joe Biden, saying they helped make this race what it is and what it may be, and if and when we get over 270. Williams, who was caught repeatedly lying about his own career a few years ago, cited no data in assigning credit to the Republican operatives. On Wednesday, MSNBC host Chris Hayes spoke with the Lincoln Project senior advisor Stuart Stevens about the potential of two runoff races for Georgia Senate seats deciding control of the Senate in January. Can you imagine the amount of money that's going to be spent and raised on those two Senate runoffs in the state of Georgia? Hayes asked with a nervous laugh. Well, look, in the Lincoln Project, I spent part of the day making ads for both those races, Stevens said. We're going to be there as heavy as we can, as will most of the known political world. The Lincoln Project did not report making any independent expenditures in either of the Georgia Senate races. Another Lincoln Project senior advisor, Kurt Bardelia, reiterated Thursday that on MSNBC that the Lincoln Project will look to be very active. Georgia runoff. 100% fucking lying scammers. And MSNBC, where are you? Oh, I know. So why am I talking about this? Who cares? MSNBC did not ask Lincoln Project founders about John Weaver despite booking them 17 times after the story first broke. What story, Mike? John Weaver of the Lincoln Project has been accused by multiple men, including a 14-year-old boy, of sexual harassment. He offered young men as young as 14 jobs and money in politics in exchange for sexual favors and attention. Lincoln Project co-founders Steve Schmidt, Rick Wilson, and George Conway have appeared on MSNBC 17 times since the story first broke on January 11th. They were not asked about the allegations during any of their interviews. So let me paint a picture for you. Former Republican operatives steal 70 plus million from Democratic voters who want to beat the Republicans, who are desperate to get Trump out of office. They stuff it in their pockets. Other Democratic operatives expose them as being useless and in fact hurting the Democratic Party. Then so one thing to just being incompetent, you know what? I disagree with the strategy. I thought it was a bad strategy. A lot of leftists thought it was stupid. But you know what? There was a rationale, and I could have been wrong. Maybe they would have gotten Republicans to switch. But the proof is in, they didn't. It was a total failure. Not only does that failure not reported, they lied about them and said they were effective. Now, one of their co-founders is a literal Epstein-level child sex offender, and they're bringing those people on still. So they grift, and so let me get this straight. They stole millions from people, stuffed it in on their own pockets, hurt the Democrats overall with their shit messaging, are trying to push the Democratic Party to the right on policy, are provable losers and failures when it comes to their strategies, and their founder is a literal sex creep, and MSNBC is still lying about it and still bringing them on like they're real fucking people so they can steal more money from well-meaning liberals who trust MSNBC. If you see Rick Wilson or Steve Schmidt or George Conway on MSNBC, you should be fucking disgusted. and they should not be brought on until they can actually justify a single more dollar or ounce of attention given to them. Do you think they're bringing on Bernie Sanders people 17 motherfucking times without asking them a question if there's a sex scandal in Bernie Sanders' fucking campaign? Let me ask you, seriously, there was a minor regional field director for Bernie Sanders who sexually harassed some subordinates, and Bernie Sanders got called a sexist for that. That's like 4 layers below Bernie. He had no idea who this person was, and that person was fired. And that was a major story around Bernie. The co-founder of the Lincoln Project is a sex creep using the money that MSNBC helped them raise and not nary a peep. MSNBC host did not ask Lincoln Project co-founders about sexual harassment allegations against their colleague despite booking them 17 times. The Lincoln Project, a pro-Democrat group, fuck off, that's not even right, Daily Caller, was forced to disavow co-founder John Weaver on January 31st following a New York Times report that he sexually propositioned men and boys on social media. Thank God there's still 1 or 2 real journalists that exist in the New York Times. The Lincoln Project released the following statement. John Weaver led a secret life that was built on the foundation of deception at every level. He's a predator, a liar, and an abuser. We extend our deepest sympathies to those who were targeted by his deplorable and predatory behavior. We're disgusted and outraged that someone in a position of power and trust would use it for these means. The totality of his deceptions are beyond anything any of us could have imagined, and we are absolutely shocked and sickened by it. Like so many, we have been betrayed and deceived by John Weaver. We are grateful beyond words that at no times was John Weaver in the physical presence of any member of the Lincoln Project, because it was such a fucking scam. They didn't even have to show up. They just got paid millions to make shitty viral ads, many of which they stole from other people. This is what I want. I didn't even give you the full Lincoln Project steals memes. The Lincoln Project stole their shit from online leftists. It was a pure grift from top to fucking bottom. And they're still brought on MSNBC. Why are they still brought on MSNBC? Why are they still brought on MSNBC? MSNBC is run by moderate Republicans. Weaver's sexual misconduct was first reported by Ryan Girdusky of the American Conservative on January 11th. After Girdusky published his story, the Lincoln Project quietly removed Weaver from the site's Our Team page. Weaver released a statement on Axios on January 15th in which he said he viewed the message as consensual mutual conversations at the time. The Lincoln Project's only official response to the story was a comment on Axios in which the spokesman said Weaver's statement speaks for itself. They didn't even call this guy out till the New York motherfucking Times. Girdusky had claimed that Lincoln Project leaders knew about Weaver's conduct but did not address it. How is MSNBC bringing these people on and not asking them if they knew about Weaver's conduct? He was promising jobs, he was promising money in exchange for sex. And the only people giving him money was the Lincoln Project because he was a fraud. He was out of the Republican Party. They threw him out because it's the Trump Party. Who are they talking about? I want to know. Who are they talking about? Seriously, who? This statement by the Lincoln Project Lincoln is an absolute lie. Members did know. Young men approached them about the accusations. Members knew I was writing the story and warned John Weaver. When discussing impeachment on MSNBC's deadline January 26, Lincoln Project co-founder Rick Wilson said Republicans are sunk in a swamp of complete moral and personal cowardice. This appearance was 15 days after Girdusky first reported on the Weaver allegations. Where is the fucking accountability? This reminds me so much that we have a blue MAGA problem in America. We absolutely have a blue MAGA problem. It's not just the Republicans. The Democrats and Democratic supporters have much of the same brain rot and moral decay that Republican voters do. Wilson has not addressed the Weaver allegations, though he did respond dismissively to a tweet alluding to the scandal. I'm not interested in subscribing to your real doll fancier newsletter. Okay, Rick. During his 8 appearances between Girdusky's report and the New York Times story, Schmidt offered commentary on his campaign to force Trump supporters to apologize and retire from public life. Like his organization, Schmidt would not publicly comment on the Weaver scandal until January 31st. Although Schmidt did condemn Weaver's disgusting, immoral, predatory conduct, he immediately pivoted to a critique of former President Donald Trump. Schmidt tweeted at Donald Trump Jr. saying Weaver's conduct would get him promoted in your organization. Pathetic. Pathetic. Grab and records show MSNBC was the only network on which Conway, Schmidt, and Wilson appeared between January 11th and 31st. Why is MSNBC promoting ineffective right-wing sexual predators? Just so you understand, Mr. Weaver, 61, sent overt sexual solicitations to at least 10 men and in the most explicit messages, offered professional and personal assistance in exchange for sex. He told one man he would spoil you when we see each other, help you other times, give advice, counsel, help with bills. You help me sensually. Steve Schmidt, a co-founder of the group, said its leaders had learned last summer from social media posts that Mr. Weaver, who has a wife and 2 children, might be involved in a relationship with men, but emphasized there was no awareness or insinuations of any inappropriate behavior when he became aware of the chatter at the time. Mr. Weaver denied the claims. Interviews with 21 young men. So they knew from the summer. Cole Trickle-Meal was 14 when he followed Mr. Weaver on Twitter in 2015 and quickly received a direct message from him. At first, he did not think anything was amiss. I remember being a 14-year-old kid interested in politics and being semi-starstruck by John Weaver engaging in a conversation with me, said Mr. Trickle-Meal, now 19. At the time, he supported the Republican Party and was a fan of Mr. Kasich, the Ohio governor with whom Mr. Weaver was helping prepare to join the presidential race. In June 2018, Mr. Weaver asked, "Are you in high school still?" And Mr. Trickle-Meal said that he was, and that he would be 18 next spring. "You look older," Mr. Weaver replied. "You've gotten taller." This is an open and shut case. In March 2020, when Mr. Trickle-Meal became 18, Mr. Weaver wrote, "I want to come to Vegas and take you to dinner and drinks and spoil you. Hey, my boy, resend me your stats, or I can guess if that's easier or more fun." And there's even more cases. I don't want to read all these allegations, but I just wanted to make it clear that MSNBC is involved in a cover-up. MSNBC is involved in a cover-up of the Lincoln Project's co-founder, the ineffective, grifting Lincoln Projects. All of their founders are engaged with MSNBC in a cover-up so that MSNBC viewers don't know about the nature of the failure of the Lincoln Project to be effective, and furthermore, its use as a sexual predator's playground. That's what your millions of dollars went if you gave to the Lincoln Project. That's what they used it for. And it's time for MSNBC to stop inviting these people on. Not only because they're against the interest of the Democratic Party base, but also they don't represent any actual constituency and they're pure sexual predator grifters. If you want more leftists on this platform and other platforms that actually go into deep dives about issues like finance and electoral politics, you're never gonna find a better stream than this one. Here's some things you can do. I'm posted YouTube content constantly. We had another Jimmy Dore video. We had a not safe for stream debate with conservatives where Vosh and I and Denims debated with a bunch of conservatives about voter fraud. You have the dumbass takes of uniting with fascists. Get in there. Get in there.